And let's be advised, UVU in Orem has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information.
In the scramble after Kirk was shot, video taken from inside a building captures what appears to be someone running across a rooftop. That rooftop is this building, called the Losi Center, less than 200 yards away from the spot where Kirk was hit.
The security team radio went dead 47 seconds before the shot. 3 of Charlie Kirk's own bodyguards are now under federal investigation, not for failing to protect him, but for possibly helping to kill him. For months, they fed us the story of Tyler Robinson, the lone shooter. A 22-year-old kid with no training, no clear motive, just rage and a grandfather's hunting rifle. But cell tower records place Kirk's head of security 180 feet from where the shooter stood, at the exact moment Kirk died. The ballistics expert who examined the bullet, he's now saying the trajectory is physically impossible from Robinson's position. Someone deleted 47 minutes of body cam footage. Someone jammed the security radios. Someone made sure that rooftop door stayed unlocked. Tonight, we're revealing the leaked communications, the financial trails, and the evidence that proves Charlie Kirk's protection team wasn't there to save him. They were there to make sure he didn't survive. 3 months before Charlie Kirk collapsed on that stage in Utah, clutching his neck as blood poured between his fingers, he signed a contract that may have guaranteed his death. The company was called Sentinel Protection Group. On paper, they looked legitimate, a Phoenix-based firm that provided security for corporate events, political rallies, high-profile speakers. Their website showed impressive credentials. Their references checked out. Their insurance was current. But nobody looked deeper. Nobody asked why a mid-tier security company was suddenly handling protection for one of America's most controversial political figures. Marcus Webb founded Sentinel in 2019. Before that, he worked for the Department of Homeland Security as a contractor. His employment there ended abruptly in 2018. The official reason: terminated for administrative purposes. When journalists filed Freedom of Information requests to learn more, every document came back redacted. Whatever Webb did to get fired from DHS, someone wanted it buried. Public financial records tell a different story than Sentinel's polished reputation. The company received investments from holding companies connected to political action committees, the same PACs that opposed Kirk's positions on military spending and foreign policy. Kirk's tour manager, David Chen, saw problems 3 weeks before Utah. The security team wasn't coordinating with local police. They refused to share their radio frequencies with event staff. When Chen specifically asked about rooftop security at Utah Valley University, the head coordinator shut him down. His name was Trevor Haynes, former military contractor. 6 feet tall, built like someone who still trained daily. Cold eyes that never seemed to blink. "We've got it covered," Haynes told Chen. "You worry about the crowd. We handle everything else." They didn't handle anything. Analysis of drone footage from that day shows a 12-minute gap where the liberal arts building, the one Tyler Robinson allegedly shot from, had 0 security presence. The rooftop access door was unlocked. The sightlines to Kirk's stage were completely exposed. 3,000 people gathered below, and nobody was watching the high ground. The payment for Utah raises even more questions. Sentinel typically charged $15,000 for events like Kirk's campus speech. For Utah, they received $47,000, triple their normal rate. The money came from a Turning Point USA discretionary fund. But here's what's disturbing. Charlie Kirk didn't control that fund. He didn't approve the payment. Someone else authorized paying his security team 3 times their standard fee, and Kirk never knew about it. Now focus on what happened during the actual event. Trevor Haynes and Nicole Vasquez were the 2 lead security personnel assigned to Kirk that day. Both were supposed to be wearing body cams. Both were supposed to maintain radio contact. Both were supposed to document their positions and movements. After Kirk died, investigators requested the body cam footage. The files were corrupted. not partially damaged, completely unusable. Both cameras, different equipment, simultaneous failure. The radio logs were even more suspicious. During the critical 15 minutes surrounding the shooting, there are no recorded communications from Haynes or Vasquez. Not a single transmission. Their radios simply went silent, then came back online after Kirk was already bleeding out. In 30 years of protective operations, security failures like this don't happen by accident. Radios don't all stop working at once. Multiple cameras don't corrupt their files simultaneously. These are the kinds of malfunctions that happen when someone wants to erase evidence. Local witnesses reported seeing men in tactical gear near the Liberal Arts Building 90 minutes before Kirk's speech began. Dark clothing, professional movement, carrying equipment cases. When campus police asked Sentinel about it, they claimed it was their advanced team conducting security sweeps. But Utah Valley University keeps logs of every security check-in. Policy requires all outside security personnel to register with campus police. Sentinel's team never signed in, never made contact, never followed protocol. So who were those men in tactical gear? And what were they really doing near that rooftop an hour and a half before someone killed Charlie Kirk? The rifle that allegedly killed Kirk was Tyler Robinson's grandfather's hunting rifle. Robinson lived in St. George, 280 miles south of the shooting. He drove his own car to Orem that morning. Campus security footage shows him arriving alone. So how did a 9-pound bolt-action rifle get past security checkpoints and onto that rooftop, unless someone with security clearance put it there first? Think about this for a second. You hire people to protect you. You trust them with your life. You pay them to watch for threats, to spot danger, to keep you safe. Now ask yourself, what if the biggest threat was standing right next to you the whole time? Drop "inside job" in the comments if you think Kirk's security team knew exactly what was going to happen that day. The security failures were just the beginning. Because when forensic experts started examining the actual physical evidence from the crime scene, the bullet, the wound, the ballistics, they discovered something that makes the official story completely impossible. Dr. Sarah Cho has been a forensic pathologist for 23 years. She's testified in over 200 murder trials. She's examined gunshot wounds from every type of firearm imaginable. Handguns, shotguns, rifles, close range, long distance, every scenario. When we showed her the autopsy findings from Charlie Kirk's death, she didn't hesitate. This doesn't match what they're telling you. The bullet entered Kirk's neck at a downward angle of 34 degrees. According to the FBI's official reconstruction, Tyler Robinson fired from a rooftop 47 feet above ground level at a distance of 143 yards. The math should be simple. Elevation, distance, trajectory, basic ballistics. But 3 independent experts ran the calculations using the exact measurements from the crime scene. All 3 reached the same conclusion. A shot from Robinson's alleged position would create an entry angle between 18 and 22 degrees. Not 34. That's not a minor difference, explains Robert Hayes, a former NCIS investigator who's worked hundreds of shooting cases. We're talking about a discrepancy that suggests either a completely different shooting position or a different shooter altogether. The weapon makes the mystery worse. The Mauser rifle they claim Robinson used fires 30-06 Springfield rounds. These are powerful hunting cartridges designed to drop elk and moose at 300 yards. The bullet travels at 2,700 feet per second with devastating kinetic energy. Kirk's trauma surgeon noted something unusual in his medical report. The bullet stayed lodged in Kirk's cervical spine. No exit wound. For anyone who knows firearms, this detail is wrong. A 30-06 round at 143 yards should have massive penetration, especially through neck tissue. The bullet should have passed completely through Kirk's body and potentially hit someone standing behind him. That's why the surgeon called it a miracle. Dozens of people were standing in the direct line of fire behind Kirk. But maybe it wasn't a miracle. Maybe it was a different weapon entirely. I've treated gunshot wounds from 30 Yo-6 rifles, Dr. Cho explains. They don't stop in the spine unless something dramatically reduced the bullet's velocity first. Either this projectile hit something else before entering Kirk's body, or we're looking at a different caliber that doesn't match the recovered rifle. The FBI's ballistics report admits something crucial. The bullet fragments recovered from Kirk's body were too damaged for definitive rifling comparison with Robinson's grandfather's rifle. Translation: they cannot prove the rifle found at the scene actually fired the shot that killed Charlie Kirk. But here's what really destroys the official story. Gunshot residue analysis came back negative. Tyler Robinson had no GSR on his hands when they arrested him. None on his clothing. None on his skin. The FBI explained this away by claiming he washed his hands and changed clothes. But Robinson was wearing the same outfit when arrested that witnesses saw him wearing the morning of the shooting. The same maroon shirt,
editing. No
the same light-colored shorts.
Perfect. One user
For
posted.
33
Others
hours, he
accused the
supposedly
FBI.
wore these clothes while on the run. You can't fire a high-powered rifle without getting gunshot residue all over your hands and clothing. It's physically impossible. The gases, the powder, the microscopic particles, they transfer onto the shooter immediately. Washing your hands doesn't remove it all. Changing clothes doesn't eliminate every trace. Robinson had 0 GSR, which means he didn't fire that rifle. The crime scene itself raises more questions. The rifle was found 340 yards from the rooftop, wrapped in a towel, hidden in nearby woods. According to the timeline, Robinson would have had to climb down from the roof, navigate through panicked crowds and responding police officers, run the length of 3 football fields carrying a 9-pound rifle, hide it carefully, then evade a campus on complete lockdown. All in approximately 8 minutes. Security footage shows hundreds of people running in every direction after the shot. Police vehicles converging from multiple locations within 90 seconds. Helicopters overhead within 4 minutes. Complete chaos. Yet in all that footage, from multiple cameras covering the entire campus, there's not a single clear image of Tyler Robinson fleeing the scene. Not one frame showing him carrying a rifle. Not one video of him running from the building. What the cameras did capture is worth your attention. At 12:26 p.m., just 3 minutes after Kirk was shot, 2 men in full tactical gear exit the liberal arts building through the east door. They're not running. They're walking calmly, deliberately. One is carrying a long equipment bag. Campus security assumed they were police. Local police assumed they were Kirk's security team. Sentinel Protection Group claimed they weren't their personnel. So who were they? And what was in that bag? Here's what you need to understand. The physical evidence doesn't support Tyler Robinson as the shooter. The ballistics are wrong. The trajectory is impossible. The gunshot residue is absent. The timeline doesn't work. Every piece of forensic evidence contradicts the official story. Comment: cover up. If you think someone is hiding the real ballistics data, because the truth is, they are. The forensic failures and security disasters were building towards something bigger. Because in the weeks before his death, Charlie Kirk was fighting battles with some of the most powerful people in American politics. And those people had made it very clear: fall in line or face the consequences. 6 weeks before Charlie Kirk died on that stage in Utah, he walked into a meeting that would seal his fate. The location was a private estate in East Hampton, New York. The kind of place where America's real decisions get made, far from cameras and voters. The attendees represented billions in political donations, the kind of money that makes or breaks political movements. The purpose was simple: get Charlie Kirk back in line. For months, Kirk had been changing. He started questioning things his major donors demanded he support without hesitation. Unlimited military aid packages to foreign countries. Automatic support for certain foreign policy positions. The influence of lobbying groups on American politics. Most dangerous of all, he began asking questions about who actually controls political discourse in America. Who decides what opinions are acceptable? Who has the power to destroy careers with a single phone call? These weren't just abstract political debates. Text messages obtained through a related lawsuit show the panic Kirk was causing among his financial backers. One donor's message was blunt: "He's becoming a liability. We made him. We can unmake him." The Hampton meeting brought together some of the most powerful figures in conservative politics. Bill Amen was there, the billionaire hedge fund manager who'd personally donated over $12 million to pro-Israel causes. Rebecca Stein attended too. Her foundation had given Turning Point USA $3.8 million since 2022. According to two people who were actually in that room, the conversation turned hostile within the first hour. Kirk was presented with what amounted to an ultimatum: stop allowing debates about certain foreign policy topics at Turning Point events. Stop platforming voices that questioned unlimited support for specific overseas commitments. Fall in line, or watch your funding disappear. Charlie Kirk refused. "You don't own me," he reportedly told the room. "I started Turning Point with nothing. I'll rebuild it with nothing if I have to." That's when things went to another level. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joined the meeting by video conference. The call lasted 18 minutes. Netanyahu personally invited Kirk to visit Israel, offering to arrange special meetings and media appearances that would clarify his positions. Kirk declined the invitation on the spot. What happened in the 48 hours after that meeting reveals just how threatened these power brokers felt. 3 Turning Point USA board members received phone calls suggesting Kirk needed to be replaced for the good of the organization. 2 major donors immediately pulled their commitments, $6.2 million in funding gone overnight. But Kirk didn't back down. Instead, he did something that may have signed his death warrant. He announced a comprehensive financial audit of Turning Point USA. He wanted to know exactly where every dollar came from and what strings were attached to those donations. "I'm concerned about how much money we're burning through," Kirk said during a staff meeting on August 15th. The meeting was recorded. "And I'm more concerned about who's driving those decisions." The audit was scheduled to begin on September 25th. Charlie Kirk was shot dead on September 10th. The audit never happened. Now look at what happened to Sentinel Protection Group, Kirk's security company, in the month before his death. They received a payment of $200,000 from a shell company called Bridgeport Security Consulting. The company is registered in Delaware. It has no website, no office, no listed employees, no phone number. Corporate records trace Bridgeport's ownership through 2 layers of holding companies before hitting a wall. But banking records tell a different story. The payment to Sentinel came from an account that had received wire transfers from 3 political action committees. All 3 PACs were heavily funded by the same donors who attended that Hampton meeting. Someone paid Kirk's security company a massive amount of money 6 weeks before Kirk was killed. And whoever paid that money went to extraordinary lengths to hide their identity. Kirk's phone records from his final weeks paint a picture of a man under attack. He received 47 calls from unlisted numbers. His email was hacked twice, both times from IP addresses that traced to commercial VPN services designed to hide the hacker's location. His hotel rooms were entered without authorization 3 separate times during his speaking tour. Nothing was stolen. But someone wanted Kirk to know he was being watched. Kirk mentioned these incidents to close friends, but publicly he downplayed the threats. "They want me scared," he told his podcast producer on September 3rd, 1 week before his death. "But I'm not backing down from the truth." 7 days later, he was dead. Think about the timeline here. Kirk refuses to fall in line. Major donors threaten him. His funding gets cut. Someone pays his security company $200,000 through an untraceable shell company. Then Kirk gets shot, and the security team's cameras mysteriously fail at the exact moment he dies. If you think Kirk's death was politically motivated, comment, "They silenced him" below. Because the evidence suggests someone decided Kirk was worth more dead than alive. While Charlie Kirk was fighting battles with billionaires and foreign leaders, a 22-year-old kid in southern Utah was being set up to take the fall for his murder. And the evidence of that setup is more disturbing than anyone imagined. Tyler James Robinson doesn't fit the profile of a political assassin. Nothing about his life suggests someone capable of planning and executing a precision hit on one of America's most protected political figures. Born into a Mormon family in St. George, Utah, Robinson was the kid everyone thought would succeed. He graduated high school with a perfect 4.0 GPA. His teachers described him as quiet, brilliant, someone who avoided conflict at all costs. He scored a 34 on his ACT, 99th percentile nationally. He received a presidential scholarship to Utah State University to study electrical engineering. He left after one semester because of anxiety. His social media history shows no extremist content, no manifestos, no angry political rants. His Discord messages were about video games and struggling with depression. Friends say he never expressed violent thoughts toward anyone. Yet prosecutors want us to believe this isolated young man, someone with no firearms training beyond occasional hunting trips with his grandfather, planned and executed a sophisticated political assassination. The evidence against Robinson collapses under scrutiny. Start with the text messages prosecutors are calling his confession. They read like a script written by someone who's never actually committed a crime. Too detailed, too sequential, too perfect for a prosecutor to present in court. I retrieved the rifle from the drop point at 6 a.m., one message allegedly reads. I engraved the bullets with anti-fascist messages using the tools under my keyboard. Drop point. What 22-year-old college dropout describes picking something up as retrieving it from a drop point? That's intelligence agency language. That's the terminology of trained operatives, not a kid texting his boyfriend about video games and depression. Lance Twiggs was Robinson's roommate and romantic partner. He cooperated fully with investigators, but Twiggs' family has come forward with information that raises serious questions about what was really happening in that apartment. In the 3 weeks before Kirk's assassination, Twiggs' apartment had unusual visitors. Multiple men in dark SUVs with out-of-state license plates. Twiggs and Robinson rarely had visitors. These men stuck out. Twiggs' mother photographed one of these vehicles on September 2nd. The license plate traces to a rental company in Arlington, Virginia. That's the same city where dozens of intelligence contractors maintain their offices. CIA, NSA, private military companies, all headquartered in the same area. When investigators interviewed Twiggs about these visitors, he claimed they were friends from online. Phone records tell a different story. Twiggs had zero prior contact with any of these men before August 2025. They appeared in his life suddenly, brief visits. Then they vanished completely after Kirk's death. Robinson's DNA on the rifle seems damning until you look at how it actually got there. According to the FBI's own timeline, Robinson handled that weapon during a family hunting trip in July, 6 weeks before the assassination. His grandfather took him shooting. He touched the rifle. His DNA transferred. That's normal. That's expected. That's not proof of murder. Here's what's impossible to explain. Robinson's fingerprints weren't on the trigger. They weren't on the bolt mechanism, the part you work to chamber each round in a bolt-action rifle. His prints were only on the stock and barrel, exactly where you'd touch a rifle if you were cleaning it, moving it, or handling it during a normal shooting trip. Not where you'd touch it if you were firing it to kill someone. The most credible challenge to Robinson as the shooter comes from the only eyewitness who actually filmed the person on that rooftop. James Mitchell is a retired Marine with 12 years of combat experience. He now teaches firearms tactics to law enforcement officers. Mitchell attended Kirk's event. He captured the only video footage of someone on the liberal arts building roof. When investigators showed him Robinson's photograph, Mitchell didn't hesitate. That's not the same person I saw. The figure Mitchell filmed was taller, heavier, and moved with military precision. Robinson is 5'9" and weighs 160 pounds. He has no combat training. The person on that roof, Mitchell insists, was at least 6'2" and moved like a trained professional. I know what a trained operator looks like, Mitchell explains. The way this person handled the weapon, his body positioning, his movements between positions, that was someone with extensive tactical training. Robinson doesn't have that background. So if Robinson didn't pull the trigger, what was his role? Intelligence operations have used patsies for decades. The playbook is simple. Find someone vulnerable, someone isolated, struggling, easy to manipulate. Place them near the crime scene. Make sure their DNA ends up on the weapon. Create digital evidence that looks like a confession. Then execute your actual operation while the patsy takes the fall. Here's the question you need to answer. Was Robinson the shooter, or was he just a convenient kid in the wrong place at the wrong time? Someone the real killers could frame while they escaped? Tell us what you think. Comment patsy or guilty below. The evidence points to something far more calculated than a lone gunman with a hunting rifle. And when we trace the connections between Kirk's compromised security team, Robinson's mysterious visitors, and the powerful people who wanted Kirk dead, a terrifying pattern emerges. The pieces fit together when you stop believing what they're telling you and start following the money. Trevor Haynes, the lead security coordinator for Charlie Kirk's Utah event, has a background that should have immediately disqualified him from protective operations.
Others accuse the
Before
FBI
joining Sentinel Protection Group, Haynes worked for a private military contractor called Aegis Solutions. Aegis lost its State Department contract in 2021. The official reason was buried in bureaucratic language, but the allegations were clear. Unauthorized intelligence gathering. Aegis contractors were accused of collecting information on American citizens and passing it to third parties. Haynes was part of that operation. His financial records tell their own story. In the 2 weeks before Kirk's assassination, Haynes received deposits totaling $35,000. The money came from the same Delaware shell company, Bridgeport Security Consulting, that paid Sentinel Protection Group $200,000. Someone paid the man responsible for Kirk's security $35,000 right before Kirk died, and that someone used an untraceable shell company to do it. Nicole Vasquez was the second security team member whose body cam footage mysteriously corrupted at the exact moment Kirk was shot. Her connections run deeper than anyone initially realized. Her brother works for a lobbying firm in Washington, D.C. The firm represents foreign governments, specifically, governments whose interests directly conflicted with Kirk's America First positions. When Kirk started questioning unlimited military aid and foreign policy influence, Vasquez's brother's clients had millions of reasons to want Kirk silenced. The communication blackout that occurred 47 seconds before Kirk was shot wasn't a technical malfunction. Forensic analysis of the recovered radio equipment shows something far more deliberate. Electronic jamming. The kind of sophisticated interference that requires specialized equipment, the kind intelligence agencies use in combat operations. Someone with access to military-grade technology intentionally disabled Kirk's security communications at the exact moment the assassin needed to take the shot. Haynes and Vasquez couldn't call for help, couldn't coordinate a response, couldn't warn anyone, because someone made sure they couldn't. Cell tower data destroys whatever remained of the official story. At 12:22 p.m., 1 minute before Kirk was shot, Trevor Haynes' phone pinged a cell tower that places him 180 feet from the Liberal Arts Building. His official statement claims he was conducting a perimeter check on the opposite side of campus. The cell data proves he lied. He was right next to the building where the shot came from. Nicole Vasquez's phone pinged a tower at 12:19 p.m. that places her inside the Liberal Arts Building itself. Her official statement says she was managing crowd control at the main entrance, hundreds of yards away. Another lie. Both of Kirk's lead security personnel were at or near the shooting location in the minutes before Kirk died. Both lied about where they were. Both had their communications disabled. Both had their body cam footage corrupted. The two unidentified men in tactical gear captured on camera leaving the building after the shooting. Facial recognition software ran their images through law enforcement databases. Both came back with matches. Both are former CIA contractors who now work for private security firms. Firms with direct financial ties to the same political donors who pressured Kirk at the Hampton meeting. Here's how the operation worked. Tyler Robinson was identified months earlier as a vulnerable target. Isolated, struggling with mental health, access to firearms through his grandfather, perfect patsy material. Unknown operatives cultivated a relationship with him through his roommate Lance Twiggs. The mysterious visitors in dark SUVs with Virginia plates. They may have offered money, may have offered help with his problems, may have convinced him he was participating in something completely different than a murder. Robinson was instructed to handle the rifle, ensuring his DNA would be on the weapon. He probably thought he was helping with a security test or a political statement that wouldn't involve actual violence. Meanwhile, the actual assassination team prepared separately. They had inside access through Kirk's compromised security detail. Trevor Haynes ensured the rooftop access was left unsecured. Nicole Vasquez positioned herself to disable communications at the critical moment. A professional shooter, likely one of the two men captured on camera leaving the building, took the actual shot from a position that explains the ballistics inconsistencies. The 34-degree downward angle, the bullet that stayed lodged in Kirk's spine, the trajectory that doesn't match Robinson's alleged location. This explains why there's no video of Robinson firing the weapon, why the eyewitness insists the person on the roof didn't match Robinson's description, why Robinson had no gunshot residue on his hands. Because Robinson never fired that rifle. Immediately after the shooting, the assassination team extracted through the liberal arts building while chaos erupted outside. Kirk's security team focused on securing the scene, which really meant controlling the evidence and eliminating anything that contradicted the lone gunman story. Robinson, confused and terrified, followed instructions he'd been given for a completely different scenario. He hid the rifle where he'd been told to, not understanding he was establishing evidence of his own guilt. The text messages presented as his confession, either sent from his phone by someone who had access to it, or sent by Robinson under duress as part of a promised deal that was never real. The FBI moved quickly to close the case before independent investigators could examine the inconsistencies too closely. Evidence that didn't fit the narrative was suppressed or destroyed. Witnesses who contradicted the official story were ignored. Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a coordinated team with inside access, sophisticated equipment, and powerful financial backing. Tyler Robinson was never meant to survive his arrest. He was supposed to be killed during apprehension, permanently silencing the only person who could expose the real operation. He survived by chance. Now he sits in a cell, unable to prove his innocence because the real assassins had months to eliminate the evidence. This conspiracy goes deeper than anyone wants to admit. Powerful donors threatened Kirk. He refused to back down. Someone paid his security team through untraceable shell companies. Kirk died while his bodyguard's cameras mysteriously failed. If you think powerful forces orchestrated Kirk's assassination, you need to subscribe right now, because we're just getting started exposing the truth they're desperate to keep buried. We're currently investigating the identities of the two contractors seen leaving that building, and what we're finding connects to the highest levels of government. Don't miss the next video where we reveal names, faces, and the money trail that leads straight to Washington. Hit subscribe, because the people behind this are counting on you staying silent and moving on to the next story. Don't let them win.